Teenagers are faced with several challenges as they make their way through high school. Classes, friendship, college plans, and especially dating. One of the complications involving high school dating can be the decision of whether or not to be sexually active. Here in Tennessee, this is not different. According to a Youth Risk Behavior Survey, or YRBS, conducted in 2013, 47% of Tennessee high schoolers have had sex, and 15% report having had 4 or more sexual partners. Compared with the national data for that year, Tennessee teens are having the same amount of sex as high schoolers nationwide. But hold on a second. Aren't Tennessee teens taught that abstinence is the only way to keep yourself safe from STIs and unwanted pregnancy?
I learned not to have sex. I learned about abstinence a lot.
They talked about a lot about STDs. Pretty much don't have sex until marriage. And
I went to a Christian school, so we weren't taught it whatsoever.
We didn't have one at my school, as I recall.
Sex is for marriage.
I don't remember health class, I'm being honest. So it didn't make much of an impact because I just remember being in a classroom and probably ignoring most of it. So.
STDs.
Yeah, if you have sex before you're 18, you're gonna get herpes.
It's not necessarily a bad thing if it's between two married people, but that as a teenager you should refrain from it because there's a chance of spreading STDs and all of that.
Do you think teaching abstinence in health class keeps teens from having sex?
Oh Lord, no.
No.
I don't think that there's really anything that will stop them. Like if they want to go
if you
out
want
and have
to,
sex, you're gonna do it.
No. I don't even think they think about it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Tennessee SB 3310, effective July 1st, 2012, requires that, if the pregnancy rates of girls aged 11 to 18 in any particular county exceed 19.5 pregnancies per 1,000 girls, then every LEA, or in layman's terms, school board, in the county will devise and adopt a program of family life education, providing age-appropriate and medically accurate information to avoid sexual risks such as unplanned pregnancy and STIs, through emphasization of abstinence, and shall under no circumstances promote any gateway sexual activity, distribute contraception, or provide, distribute, display, or conduct demonstrations with any materials that condone or encourage premarital sex among students, or that are specifically manufactured for sexual stimulation. According to the most recent data available, 2013, Bradley County falls below that line. However, according to the same table of data, 37 counties in our state exceed that line. And now, according to state law, they have to have an abstinence-based curriculum in school. Even though Bradley County isn't required to have sex ed, we still have it in our school system, and it is an abstinence-based curriculum. Tell teens to wait until marriage to prevent unwanted pregnancy and STIs. Great. Simple, right? Well, maybe not so much. Let's pull back for a second. These are the states with the highest teen birth rates as of 2015, with number 1 being the lowest and 50 being the highest. You'll notice Tennessee is the 9th highest at number 42. One thing these states all have in common: not all of them require sex ed, but when they do, state law requires that abstinence be stressed, and only New Mexico, West Virginia, and Alabama require that contraceptives be covered. This can be interpreted in a couple of ways: that in these states either more teens are having sex, or there's less access to contraceptive options, or even information about contraceptives. Pulling back even further, on a global scale, the United States has one of the highest teen birth rates of an industrialized country. In fact, all sources point to a decline in teen pregnancy since 1990, but it's still that high. So what's the problem? Well, many people believe that sexual education in the United States is simply not good enough. This has been so widely known for years that it's become a running joke in popular media.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die.
So let's see what the problem is. Currently, 24 states and the District of Columbia require sex ed. This is including our state, by the way, so technically it's more like 23. Since the majority of counties don't have a high enough birth rate to require sex ed. Now, this doesn't mean that only 23 states are receiving sex ed. It means that 23 states require that sex ed be taught in schools. 20 states, including Tennessee, require the information presented be medically accurate. The messy part is that the definition of medically accurate is different for every state. There's no way to determine how much a teen knows based on their time in health class. because it's different everywhere you go. There have been instances of receiving information that isn't true at all. In fact, after talking to a couple of other students, I discovered we were shown a certain video in health class when discussing sex ed.
Well, my mom found out I was having sex, and so she put me on the pill. That drug, that hormone, that pill, that shot that this girl is taking has just made her 10 times more likely to contract a disease than if she were not taking that drug. This girl could end up sterile or dead.
What? It's true that contraceptive options like the pill or patch increase estrogen, which can increase the chance of yeast infections, which are very rarely serious or deadly, can be easily treated, and don't affect fertility at all. In fact, newer birth control pills have lower levels of estrogen, so there's a lower chance of infection. And it isn't like a yeast infection is a stigmatized STI. These are common for women with a hormonal imbalance, and in pregnant women, since they're producing more estrogen. And it isn't just sexually active people taking the pill. Lots of teen girls take birth control to help with acne or other skin problems, and birth control can help with menstrual cramps and other bothersome parts of periods. Long story short, this isn't correct.
But wait, isn't sex ed in Tennessee supposed to be medically accurate? Well, you could make the argument that Bradley County, at the time not exceeding the limit imposed by the sex ed bill, was not subject to the medically accurate note. But why should it not be? All of us place our trust in schools, students and parents alike, to teach us and our children how to be stand-up, informed members of society. When you aren't sure that the information you're getting is accurate or true, it not only disrupts the learning process, but it creates distrust between public school systems and students and their families. And there's some information that students wish they were getting in class.
It's like the consequences of having sex as opposed to like, I don't know, like they kind of treated you like you shouldn't have an interest in it. That like if you're interested in sex, you're like sinning and you're doing wrong and you're. I wish instead of teaching us not to have sex, they would have taught us, how to defend ourselves from, unwanted sexual contact.
Yeah, I mean, like it's helpful to learn just so like you actually know like everything. I mean,
I wish they hadn't tried to scare us so bad. They were just using a scare tactic, and I thought that was horrible.
I kind of wish there was more LGBT inclusive education when it came to that. There's so many LGBT people that don't feel included in a lot of their school programs, especially their sex ed class.
This stuff is important. We shouldn't just go out there and tell teens not to have sex without explaining the risks of unsafe sex in a rational way. Even though we're teaching it in school, it seems like we're all still kind of uncomfortable about the subject. We need to be open to discuss this, especially at the age at which these things are taught. A lot of kids are nervous or ashamed to ask questions about these things, even to their parents. And sex is an important part of life. It's how we create new life. If high school is preparing us for the adult world, we need to have good, accurate information on how to approach it, whether we're sexually active or not.
So, where do we go from here? How can we get good, solid sexual education to students? As education law is mostly left to the states, there isn't much on the national level that we can do, so it's up to the states on this one. If you think you aren't prepared to face this, ask questions, talk to your health teacher. If you aren't satisfied with the curriculum, don't be afraid to ask your parents about it. I mean, if they're your biological parents, they're definitely going to know what they're talking about. If you still have questions, we are living in an age of information. There is currently no collection of information that can compare to the library of carnal knowledge that is the internet.
And in all of this, don't be ashamed. I don't know if you know this, but you're a human being. You're a living organism. One of your main instinctual drives is to reproduce. Everyone has it, and at some point, everyone does it. Getting education on it is not weird or unholy or wrong. It's just a part of life. So come on, people. Let's talk about sex.
You say